Says 3 Super Bowl titles.
Nobody can break down the NFL like he can.
Here's Mark Schlereth.
Every Tuesday at this time, we're joined by our friend Mark Schlereth from the NFL on Fox, also 104.3 The Fan in Denver. Mark, as always, we appreciate your time. A lot of people talking about Josh McDaniels going for 2 in the fourth quarter. Did you agree with McDaniels when they went for that?
Listen, I'm conservative. Like, I want to try to win. I mean, I look at those situations, and obviously, I understand the opposite side of that, but I keep getting, these analytic moves that keep costing teams games. And I think analytics is just an excuse to basically not take responsibility for stupidity. And I keep, it's 4th down and 1, and it says 67% of the time you go for it, or you go for it. I always look at it this way. We just got momentum by scoring, right? We can tie the game and keep the momentum, and you go for 2, you don't make it, the momentum shifts to the other football team. I don't understand that. And, I get, hey, we're going to go for the win. But I am not a fan of it. I would rather tie the game and take my chances of either getting a stop and being able to score a field goal or going into overtime and taking my chances. So that's just me personally, but, I understand both sides of the equation.
Would Mark Schlereth, the player, give a different answer than Mark Schlereth, the analyst? If you were out there on that field and that call came out, would you be behind it?
I would probably want to kick. I'd probably want to take the sure points and give myself a chance to win or give myself a chance to play overtime. So I think, again, I'm not in that situation. I just know, I know how hard 2-point conversions are to get. And I don't know what the percentages are on 2-point conversions, but I've had enough of those situations. As a matter of fact, I played a game where our kicker got hurt in pregame warm-up, so we didn't have a kicker, and we had to go for 2 every single time. And it's just not easy. It's, at that part of the field, it's not a given by any stretch of the imagination. So, I get both sides of it, but I was not a fan of the call at the time.
Mark Schlereth is with us. Mark, of course, the other story of that game is Chris Jones, a roughing the passer call off of what happened on Sunday between Atlanta and Tampa. It's rather obvious there's a roughing the passer problem for the NFL. What do you think they should do about it?
Well, listen, I've never been a fan of the challenge system. I think the challenge system is ridiculous, and I've always thought for myself. I think, we only want to get the game right when we have a challenge flag. What if we run out of challenge flags? Then we don't care about getting the game right. Do we want to get it right all the time, or do we not want to get it right ever? Like, either take it all away or actually do it. And I think it's a really easy thing, a really easy solution. As the game goes on, if there's something egregious that happens, you stop the game, you let New York look at it, and you change it. Listen, it's a game of human error, right? It's usually the team that makes the least amount of mistakes is the team that's going to win the majority of the games. So it's a human error. Coaches make bad coaching decisions. Players make bad decisions. They get beat physically. And referees make bad decisions, and they make bad calls. How easy would it be to go upstairs and go, let me look at that. No, that's not roughing. That's not the intent of the rule, and change it. I don't understand why that's so difficult. I really don't. I think about how we see this game or how we view this game. Like, you make a catch that you're not sure if it's a catch or not, and nobody's quite sure, and the offense runs up the line of scrimmage to snap the ball really quick and waste it down so they get the yardage, right? We look like a bunch of clowns jumping out of clown cars, running up there. Like, why wouldn't we just want to get it right? If it's close and it's disputable, why not just say, hey, let's just take a look at it? I just don't understand the philosophy of the NFL when it comes to the whole challenge system.
Last night after the game, Chris Jones made a point that I've made time and time again when we talk about these roughing the passer calls, and I understand trying to protect the quarterback, but he said, hey, man, look, I'm 6'4", 270, and I'm moving real fast. You want me to slow down and think about how I'm going to put the quarterback on the ground? Is it even possible for some of these pass rushers to do what the NFL is asking them to do to avoid these flags?
No, it's impossible. You understand that you're trying to, that like targeting the target where you're trying to hit a receiver or whatever, right? Like, you know that you go in at a certain level, that dude's going to dip, and you're going to accidentally hit helmet to helmet. Like, that's part of the equation. So what do? You go low? I mean, do guys want to tear their ACLs? And nobody wants that either. So you put defenders in an impossible position. And ultimately to me, I get the protection of the quarterback. I get that they are what makes this league go round, right? I understand all of that. I understand that backup quarterbacks, right? We want our starters out there. But at some point, they've got to be football players too. And they've got to take hits. I mean, that's part of the equation. So that's why when they list, the top 100 football players, I take all quarterbacks off my list. Quarterbacks don't play football. They play quarterback. It's a completely different deal. And I will not put a quarterback in my top 100 players because they don't play football. They play quarterback, and it's completely different. And, I just hate the way – I understand the protection of it, but I hate the way we protect them.
Mark Schlereth is with us here, Cattles Ramie on Sactown Sports. Mark, before the season, I don't know if you were waxing poetic as much as we were about the AFC West being possibly the best division in football. Now we fast forward through 5 weeks. Is that division actually a one playoff team?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? I mean, I think the Chargers, obviously we were waxing poetic about it because they have such good quarterbacks, and they still have good quarterback play.
Right.
But, I mean, Brandon Staley has never seen a fourth down that he wouldn't go for. Some of the decisions he makes, they're ridiculous. I mean, they're insanely stupid. So to the point where his players are questioning him, right? So, I mean, that part of it, like the Chargers are going to charge. They're going to lose games because they're the Chargers. And the Raiders, I think, are a far more talented team than their record shows. And I think last night was, proof of that. And, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Raiders, turn around and win a bunch of games in a row here. Obviously, the Broncos are they've just been horrendous, and Russell Wilson's been terrible. And so, they're so injured right now. They've got, I think, 12 prominent players on IR. They've got more money tied up on IR than anybody else. So I still think one of the two teams, whether it's the Chargers or the Raiders, have a chance at being a playoff team, but they certainly have put themselves in harm's way. The bottom line is, I was looking at it today, even though the Broncos are awful at 2-3 and trending the wrong way, they're still in a division, the AFC, that's going to put 7 teams in the playoff. They're 10th right now for playoff contention. So I think everybody's still kind of wide open here because I don't think beyond the Chiefs and Buffalo, anybody's going to run away with any division.
The flip side of that division over in the NFC is the NFC East, that everybody thought it was going to be a war of attrition, and you have 3 winning teams there now. How good do you think the Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys are relative to their record?
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are really good, and they're doing it with a backup quarterback. And if they can maintain the same formula, so the first game of the season they ran at 18 attempts, right, with Dak Prescott. Since they've started their backup quarterback, they've been averaging 28.3 attempts per game. So they've taken a different formula and a different approach. And, they're shortening the game for their defense. And their defense, as you guys know, they're legit. They can really play. Philadelphia is one of the most physically imposing teams. They're big and strong, and they're also fast and athletic. And so they're one of the best teams I've seen on film. And I've called 2 of their games so far this year. So I think they're one of the best, like I said, one of the very best teams in football, in my opinion. And then the Giants are winning ugly, and they're making explosive plays on the offensive side. Obviously, Saquon Barkley's in a system he likes, and Brian Daboll does a great job of adjusting to what he has. And that's the best thing you can say about a coach is I'm gonna put in a system that best fits my players' abilities. I always get frustrated with the game when people put a guy in a position to lose and then act surprised when he loses. I'm like, you're the dumbass that put him in that position, right? So, I mean, Brian Daboll has done a really good job. He did it with Josh Allen as well, of saying, okay, what does my guy do really well, and let's stick with that. And I think he's done that with Daniel Jones because this is the best I've seen Daniel Jones play.
Mark, great stuff again. We'll catch up with you next week. We thank you for your time.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right, there goes Mark Schlereth, NFL on Fox, and of course, 104.3 The Fan out there in Denver.